Hello everyone. Today we will be covering the concept of algorithm and flowchart. So what exactly an algorithm is? We can say an algorithm is just a step-by-step process. It is as simple as that, like describing a procedure. Suppose any problem, the solution can be depicted as step-by-step process. Suppose the process of making a tea. There has to be a process for that. First we have to do this. Secondly, we have to do something else. Thirdly, we have to do something else. So, and this goes on until the problem is solved. So we can say the formal definition I'm reading out. An algorithm is a step-by-step instruction of a problem which defines the solution of a particular problem in simple language. So it is a step-by-step instruction of a problem. The purpose is to find the solution. If carried out these steps correctly, it will lead us to the solution of the problem. So an algorithm can be expressed in pseudocode, which resembles somewhat any high-level language like C or Java. So here I'll show you some examples of algorithm. So this is one example of algorithm. The problem is to find the average of three given numbers. So here you can see step by step, if we do these things, it is going to give us the average of three numbers. So step 1 is that we have to start. Step 2, we have to input three integers. Then after that, we have to give output of 3. That is the average of three integers. Then we have to give the user input the numbers like if A is 5, B is 10, C is 9, and we have to finally calculate the average. What is the formula for that? We have to do the addition and we have to divide it by the number of entities or the number of integers. Then we have to output that the average is the value that is stored in R, and that we have to stop. So this is a simple example of how to write an algorithm for a given problem. Now, algorithm has certain properties. So it has to take an input first of all. The algorithm must produce one output. The number of steps must be finite. That is, the algorithm must terminate within a finite time, that is within a finite number of steps. And each and every steps must be precise and unambiguously defined. There shouldn't be any ambiguity in the steps. Suppose if I say that step number 1, take a utensil for making a chai. If we consider the problem of making a tea, making a cup of tea, then suppose my very step number 1 is that you have to take a utensil. Now, this sentence is definitely ambiguous. Why? Because you cannot take any utensil. You have to also specify the kind of utensil you have to take. You may take a kadai, you may take a saucepan, you may take a pot or whatever, or a bowl or a steel bowl which you can heat for making a tea. But can you make a tea in any utensil? No. So this is not a specific step. So I am relating it, I am taking these kinds of examples so that you can relate it better with your real life. So definiteness is all about that. It has to be very definite, very precise, and very, very unambiguous. There shouldn't be any ambiguity regarding what the step is. Next is effectiveness. The solution should be found within a constant amount of time. The lesser, the better. The more fast we can execute the algorithm, the more it is effective. So these are the properties of algorithm. Firstly, it must take an input, it must give some output, it should terminate within finite number of steps, Each and every step should be very definite, precise and unambiguous. And lastly, it should be effective. It should terminate within a feasible amount of time. It shouldn't keep on running indefinitely. So this was all about algorithms. Now we will understand what a flowchart is. Flowchart also helps us solving a problem, but it is kind of a representation. Flowchart is the graphical representation, we can say. It represents step-by-step instruction for easier view of the problem and its solution. Same thing that we described in an algorithm can be represented using a flowchart as well. So there are various components of flowchart which has its corresponding significance. Each component or each representation carries a meaning of its own. So here we will see what are the components. As you can see, the first one is the start and stop, which marks the start of the problem. Next is this is data or whatever we are inputting or outputting. This one is process. The process means we are doing something, like calculating the average is a process, considering the previous example. Decision. Decision takes whether given a question mark, what is its answer? If it is yes, we have to follow change the path differently. If it is no, we have to form another alternate path. So decisions tells us according to the answer of the question which direction we should go or what should be done in order to achieve the solution. Fourth is document. This is the symbol for the document. This is display. This is a predefined process which has already been done and it has to be given in such a state. It has to be done and given into the system. This is preparation, sequential access storage, and this is connector. This is we use to connect something. Sequential access storage are storage which has to be formed in a sequence. These are very rarely used. Majorly the left side portion or the left list has to be used. I'll show you an example of flowchart next. So here the same problem has been depicted using the flowchart as well. Given the three numbers, we have to calculate the average of it. So we are starting with the start symbol. After that, we have to input the three numbers and our output has to be the average of three integers. We will give the input ABC actually. Then we have to process it. That means we have to calculate the average, that is summing up the numbers, and we have to divide it by the number of entities. Then we have to output it. And this is the end. So this is how an algorithm works. I hope you are clear with flowchart and algorithm. Flowchart is just the graphical representation of the instruction in an algorithm. We can write it as step by step or we can use it graphically to make you understand. Now this was all regarding algorithms and flowchart. I hope you are clear. If you have any doubt, post it in the class. This is Shashwati Das signing off.